Hi everyone, I am author K.R. Bankston and welcome to K.R. Storytime. Today I am going to share an excerpt with you from my book, Interception. Interception is not your typical romance. I won't even say that it's romantic at all. It has a touch of romance in it. How about that? I call it a romantic novella, but you'd have to understand KR's idea of romance. Anyway, let's get the legalities, I guess, out of the way. It is a mature themed book. It has adult situations, adult language, violence, sexual situations, sex, and I think I've covered it all in that. So I would say beware, be careful of the age group that you would allow to read the book. Now, let me set the scene for you before we get into it. This is about a triangle between Andrew Drew Joseph, who is a sports agent. He's the leading sports agent. He gets all the big name clients. He talks that talk. He walks that walk. He has it going on. There are two roommates, Gianna and Neveah. And Gianna is the object of Drew's affection. He really has a thing for her, but he's never sure if, he can get close to her on that level. Neveah is a very smart girl. She has a master's degree. She has a good job, but she wants to take the easy way out, and that she wants a baller to take care of her. So they all travel in these circles with the professional ball players and things like that. And the scene opens with them coming to a lavish party that Drew is throwing. And they are coming inside. So the chapter is appropriately called Kickoff. You can get this book in ebook and in paperback via my site, www.krbankstononline.com. The ebook, I'm not sure. I can't remember if I put it on Amazon. It may be, but the paperback is there if you want to get it from there. But I suggest you get it from my site. Price is better, and you get it autographed. So, without further ado, let's get into it, and we're going to start with a chapter called Kickoff. Drew looked around the expansive ballroom, admiring his handiwork. He smiled, seeing several of his high commission clients laughing and joking with the potentials he invited to the black and white affair. Huge glistening sculptures and chandeliers encompassed the room, making the sculptures glisten in their wake. The zebra-patterned window treatments and accessories added a touch of the wild, both dressing up and dressing down the room simultaneously. Andrew Drew Joseph was one of the country's most sought-after sports agents. He commanded and got huge endorsement and product line contracts for his top-end NFL clients. He represented a few NBA and NHL stars as well, but Drew's bread and butter came from the men of the gridiron. He sipped his champagne as the elevator doors opened and he saw the women disembark. Smiling, Drew headed toward the two beautiful women, removing champagne flutes from the server's tray. I was beginning to think you stood me up. His eyes never left Gianna as he teased them. Neveah spoke first, stepping between him and Gianna. You know we had to make an interest, Drew. Don't act new. Drew sighed lightly before smiling again and addressing her, sarcasm tinging his voice. And how are you tonight, Neveah? Looking good and ready to catch myself a baller. Drew sighed again before doing a general wave. Room is full of them. It was hard masking his irritation when he talked to her sometimes. Drew remained friends with Neveah since college. Intelligent with a master's degree in multinational finance, Neveah's problem was laziness. She didn't want to work for anything, settling for getting by on her looks and figure. Her goal? Trying to catch and secure a 6+ figure income husband. You looking for a baller too, Gianna? Gianna gave him a look, causing him to burst into laughter. I'm looking for some cowboys. Drew continued to smile at her answer. He liked Gianna. She was straightforward, smart, sexy, and entrancing all at once. He slyly looked her over in the black and white after-six cocktail dress, loving every inch of the curvaceous frame. She let her hair down tonight, the loose spirals lying gently on her face. Drew loved the soft fawn coloring, fighting the urge to reach out and brush the errant curl from her face. It hid the beautiful brown eyes that always seemed to be reading his thoughts. Gianna was also a die-hard Dallas Cowboys fan. Drew gave her props. She knew the game, all the plays, players, rules, penalties, and stats. It wasn't just a show for her. There are a few here. I'll take you to meet some of them. Thank you. Well, point me to the single eligible ballers. With her statement, Neveah pushed her breast up even higher in the dress. Drew chuckled, shaking his head, pointing her in the direction closest to the bar, watching her switch her way across the floor, commanding immediate attention once she arrived and climbed onto a bar stool. Drew's mind tumbled as he and Gianna began to circulate around the room, meeting various players, gathering autographs. He couldn't figure her out. Pleasant and amiable, Gianna didn't date. Drew couldn't recall in the 3 years since she and Neveah became roommates, her having a man or even a friend with benefits. He took the unusual step of asking Neveah point blank if Gianna were gay. She quickly corrected him, saying her roommate was simply private. Drew wanted to get close to her, date her, definitely make love to her. Her persona spoke sexy in any language scripted. Gianna nudged him, breaking his thought as she spoke aloud. Thanks for the badge, too. Oh, you're welcome. Everyone who attended the party wore the hanging ID badge, he emblazoned the cowboy star on hers. I see you signed Sean Parrington. Drew smiled again, loving how knowledgeable she was about what he did. Parrington was a hot commodity, a first-round draft pick this year. Yeah, got him a couple of endorsements already, too. Gianna smiled. I'm impressed. Julian walked up to the couple, taking Gianna in. You holding out on a brother, Drew. Slightly irritated with the intrusion, Drew quickly gathered himself and introduced the two. Gianna nodded, acknowledging him before starting a conversation. You play what position? Wide receiver with the Baltimore Ravens. Damn! That dress is wearing the hell out of you. Braden spoke his mind to Neveah, giving her a look as she ordered another shot of Patron. She smiled, and he knew he held her attention. Introducing himself, Braden told her he was a receiver for the Washington Redskins, all the while taking in the two C-cups staring back at him. Her dress left little to the imagination. Solid black with a thigh-high split. He found himself getting an erection and immediately changed his thoughts. Neveah chuckled, introducing herself. Damn, don't let my girl hear that. I'm Neveah. She enunciated her name. She hated it when people messed it up or called her Neveah. Finally explaining Gianna's devotion to the Cowboys, he laughed with her. And what about you? Neveah took him in, pondering his question, and hoped he was locked into a lucrative multi-year contract. She loved the smooth dark chocolate covering the lean frame, toned and buffed where it counted. Braden heralded beautiful dark brown eyes and a smile that could give the sun a run for his money. Quickly looking at his hands, the long, well-manicured fingers had Neveah's thong moist with anticipation. I'm more an observer than supporter. Braden smiled again at her answer. Well, maybe spending some time with me would change your position, He already planned internally how many different ways he wanted to sex her tonight. Well, you look like you could be pretty persuasive, Neveah, no amateur at flirting, jumped right in. Braden looked her over once again before finding her eyes, the words floating from his lips. You have no idea. Neveah smiled again as Braden ordered her a shot of Patron to match his, and they continued to talk. I am going to bang this trick silly tonight, the thought rolled around in his head. He gently kissed her cheek, telling Neveah how lucky he was to have met her. This one's a keeper, and I'm going to definitely enjoy that black card he keeps flashing. She smiled as she reached out, gently caressing his chest. It's nice to meet you, Julian. Julian smiled, taking the woman in again now that he stared into her eyes. Damn, she is gorgeous. It's nice to meet you as well. I'll try and ignore that star you're wearing. She raised an eyebrow and Drew smiled somewhat. Oh, you don't have to ignore it. Embrace it. Love it. Envy it. Julian burst into laughter at her declaration. You are definitely a Cowboys fan. Thank you. She excused herself to the ladies' room, leaving the two men alone. Julian immediately began fishing for information. How long you two been kicking it? Truthfully, he hoped Drew and the woman were only friends. Gianna intrigued him. He saw her arrive with the other one his boy Braden was setting up for the evening. She acted nothing like her friend. Gianna and I are cool. What does that mean? Are you with her or not? Drew opened his mouth, not sure what he wanted to say, when one of his assistants came and interrupted the conversation, telling him he was needed immediately. Excusing himself without answering Julian's questions, he breathed a slight sigh of relief and walked away. Gianna returned moments later as Julian smiled and greeted her again. Drew deserted you, I'm afraid. Gianna chuckled. It's cool. I'm a big girl. Are you and Drew dating? He wanted an answer from one of them. That's a pretty personal question, don't you think? Julian sighed casually before responding. Yes, but I don't want to be standing here infatuated with, making plans to get to know, a woman who is already taken. Gianna smiled a touch. Julian was an attractive man, Gianna admitted internally. Sexy caramel, tall, and thick in all the right places. He was articulate and, so far, a complete gentleman. Drew and I are not dating. Her answer put Julian far more at ease. I'll be in town for the next week. Do you think we could get together, have lunch, dinner maybe? Normally, he would be doing the same thing as Brady, finding himself some quick throwaway sex for the evening. Meeting her changed that momentarily. There was something about Gianna that struck a chord in him, actually recalling his grandmother's words about knowing you've struck gold the moment you see the mine. Gianna frowned somewhat, and Julian pressed a bit more, not wanting to hear the no he saw on her face. No strings, Gianna. I just want to get to share a meal and talk. Gianna's face remained expressionless as she thought over his request. She held her own reasons for not dating, and an athlete was not on her list of suitable potentials. Maybe. Julian smiled graciously, accepting the answer. He gave her his cell number and left the ball in her court. Drew returned seconds later, whisking her away to meet more Cowboys players. I hope you enjoyed that excerpt, and if you did, I hope you'll go over to my site, krbankstononline.com/shop, or you can click the shop tab and get your own copy in ebook or paperback form. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me, and take a chance, because tell you what, if you give me the opportunity, bet I can make you love a bad guy. Have a great evening.